Hello everyone and welcome back to Carried Away Travels. In this week's video, I'm going to show you how you can experience a little bit of everything Iceland has to offer in just one day at the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. Just real quick before we dive in, I do want to apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. The names of a lot of the places that I'll be talking about today are pretty hard for me to pronounce since they aren't Icelandic. So I am going to give it my best shot. If I absolutely butcher some of these names, I am so sorry. Feel free to let me know in the comments, but I'm going to do my absolute best to pronounce all of these correctly while letting you know all the wonderful reasons you should visit. By the way, if this is your first time here, I'm Carrie, and I share helpful travel tips, itineraries, gear recommendations, and more so you can always have the perfect trip. So today we're going to be talking about the Snaefellsnes Peninsula, which is a region in western Iceland that's often called Mini Iceland or Iceland in a nutshell. And the reason it's gotten these nicknames is because this one area exhibits so many of the beautiful landscape styles that Iceland is known for. Like, it really does have a little bit of everything. There's a glacier, there are basalt columns, there are black pebble beaches, all sorts of diverse wildlife. Like, there's just a little bit of everything here. So if you spend a day here, you will get a beautiful glimpse of everything the rest of the country has to offer all at once. Now, in a perfect world, you would probably carve out 2 to 3 days of your trip just to explore everything here. There are so many little fishing towns, hikes you can take, hidden gems to explore. But if you are trying to do more of a whirlwind trip of Iceland and hit some of the highlights, and you only have a day to spend here, I want to tell you the best places to have on your list for a one-day road trip. So if you're ready, let's dive in. First things first, let's talk about how to actually get to the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. So it is about 2 hours from Reykjavik or 45 minutes from Borgarnes. So if you can, I would recommend starting from the Borgarnes area because it's going to save you a lot of time on the road. And since there is so much to see in this one day, that 2 hours in the morning, while it is an absolutely gorgeous drive, will probably be better spent hiking and enjoying the area. So if you can, I would say get to Borgarnes the night before, or if you really want to, you can stay in a local fishing town on the peninsula itself. Borgarnes is just more popular. They keep the roads pretty clear all year round because people are constantly visiting this area and they need tour buses to be able to access it as well. So you don't need to worry about having a 4x4 vehicle or anything like that. You can just take your car, unless it's summer and you want to do the F570 road. That does require a 4x4 vehicle, but otherwise you should be good to go. The Snaefellsnes Peninsula is also super easy to access from Ring Road number 1. That's the super famous road that goes all the way around Iceland. You just take a detour on Road 54 and you'll be able to take a loop all the way around the peninsula. You can drive this loop either direction, but since you are most likely coming from the south, I'm going to walk you through driving it from the south to the west and then up towards the north. Our first stop on this trip is the Kirkkelfell Black Church. Now, this is one of just 3 black churches in Iceland, but this one is the most popular to photograph because it is in just the most beautiful surroundings. It's kind of set back from the road, isolated in this field, but on one side, off into the distance, you can see a lava field and the ocean. But if you turn back around, it is framed in by this beautiful backdrop of mountains and the Snaefellsnes Glacier. Snaefellsnes.
Snaefellsjökull.
What he said. Now, there's not a whole lot else around here, but that does add to the charm of this church. It is just such a quiet and peaceful spot for a church building like this. And it is interesting because this particular church dates back to 1703. This wasn't the original location or the original building, but it has withstood that length of time for this particular area. So it is just really interesting to visit. And if you are interested in old cemeteries, it does have a small one right off to the side. You can go wander through there as well. Next up is the fishing village of Anerstapi and its cliff walk. Now, Anerstapi apparently used to be a bigger area. Now it is pretty small and it's mostly just a tourist hub, but it is in such a gorgeous location between Mount Snaefellsnes and these really dramatic cliffs. There's not a whole lot to do in town, but if you're a fan of Jules Verne, you'll definitely want to check out the plaque they have dedicated to him there. It's really interesting because if you've ever read Journey to the Center of the Earth, you may recognize Snaefellsnes because that is where they descend into the earth to start the main portion of their journey. So they have that plaque there to Jules Verne. I thought that was very interesting. It made me want to go back and read the books. So that is one of the main things you can do in town. The other thing to check out before the cliffs is a very interesting statue that they have dedicated to Bjordor Snaefellsnes. I tried, y'all. This was a half man, half troll who is featured in one of Iceland's popular sagas. So there's a whole saga about this half man, half troll who supposedly founded the Snaefellsnes Peninsula area. So they have a rather funky commemorative statue for him there looking out over the ocean. It makes for a fun little photo shoot. But again, the main thing here is the cliff walk. This is where you want to spend your time. This was honestly one of my favorite views from our entire 7-day trip in Iceland. I could have spent a whole day here just wandering along these cliffs. They have a nice path carved out and you can just look out over the ocean and see these mountains curving off into the distance. And then when you look down, there's these just dramatic black cliffs, there's basalt columns, and there are seabirds everywhere. Now, the Snaefellsnes Peninsula has 60 out of the 70 species of birds that nest in Iceland. It has 60 of them there. So there are so many birds here. And so be careful, make sure you're not disrupting any nesting grounds, but you'll see tons of them flying around. There's a really cool stone archway that just is absolutely mesmerizing how it eroded that way. There is a stone bridge that some people say you shouldn't walk over, but apparently a lot of people do, and it's supposed to be perfectly safe. No one's going to stop you if you want to, so I say go for it. And then there's just beautiful views everywhere. So I would say take your time here. Enjoy it. Go on all the little detours that you want to. I will say, if it is winter, do not wear tennis shoes. I have covered this in my packing video for Iceland, but this was the #1 spot where I actually thought I might see someone die, and I am not over exaggerating there. It is very slippery here and there's no railing. It is just a cliff, so you need boots with a good grip. If it is summer or whatever, I would still say have a good hiking shoe with tread. In winter, they actually recommend crampons on the bottom of your boots just for that extra grip. So please, please, please wear proper footwear, watch where you step, and be very careful here so you can safely enjoy these views. Now, most of the western tip of the peninsula is part of the Snaefellsnes National Park, and that epic glacier is at the center of everything. If you do have maybe an extra day or so to spend, this is probably where you're going to want to concentrate your explorations because there's just so much to discover here. But if you do have to keep moving, I would say you should go visit Longjgur. These are some really cool sea stacks that were eroded out by the ocean. There's these sea stacks and a hill that were part of a volcanic eruption. And so you can see the stacks really well from the hilltop. There's actually 2 viewpoints where you can look out and see them. And besides the fact that these are just really uniquely shaped, when you look at them from certain angles, they actually kind of look like a castle. If you want to and the weather's good, there is a path from the parking lot that you can take right down to the beach, and you can stand next to these sea stacks and see them. Again, that is more weather dependent. If not, there's a nice path up on this hill. You can still get great views of them. The hike from the parking lot up the hill isn't super long, but it is pretty steep. So be sure to carve out time in case you need to rest there. But really, you probably only need about 25 minutes here if you just plan to do the hilltop. If you do want to go down to the beach, I would definitely double that just to make sure you have plenty of time to enjoy it. And if you're down on the beach, there's just gonna be a lot more to discover down there. Just enjoy it because the views here are just absolutely stunning. This next stop would be optional, especially if you do go down to the Black Pebble Beach at Longjgur. But if you want to check out a large and very popular black sand beach, you should check out Jupon Sunder. This is a very popular black sand and black pebble beach. It is literally just around the corner from Longjgur, so you can be there, I think, in like 4 minutes from that stop. If it is snowy, icy, it can be hard to reach this. So be cautious if the weather is a little rough. You may not want to risk going down to that beach there. But this is like the most popular black pebble beach on the peninsula if you want to add that to your itinerary. So at this point in your journey, you have officially rounded the tip of the peninsula and will be driving along the northern side. And this is where you're going to find most of the villages on the peninsula. So the three that you're going to pass through on this particular road trip are Hellesander, Reef, and Olafsvik. And then right after your last stop, there's also Grundafjord. There's only like 5,000 people that live on the peninsula total, and most of them live on this northern side here. So just driving down this road, you will pass a number of these small fishing villages. Depending on what time it is, how long you've spent at other locations exploring, you may have time to stop into one or two of these and check them out. There is not a lot here, but it is a great chance to see what authentic Icelandic life is like. And some of them do have small little touristy shows or stores to check out if you do want to stop. We actually stopped in Grundafjord for a few minutes just to check out their local grocery store. It was a good chance to get some authentic Icelandic snacks and just see what they sell there. So we got like chocolate covered licorice. There was like more of a puffed rice candy bar, and we just browsed through like what kind of chips and sodas they had and what different meats and cheeses they had that differ from what we had back home. That was just a fun little glimpse into what life is like in an authentic village, and also a great opportunity to try some of their local snacks. And last but certainly not least on this road trip is Mount Kirkkelfell and the Kirkkelfell waterfall. This duo is one of the most iconic photo spots in all of Iceland. Now, we visited when they were both covered in snow. The waterfall was actually mostly frozen. It had this really cool icy shell around each of the falls, but you could see the water flowing underneath it. But it's most commonly pictured when everything is in vibrant green and it's summer. You may recognize Mount Kirkkelfell as Arrowhead Mountain instead, because it does have a very distinct shape to it. So this is just such a fun stop no matter what time of year. There's a parking lot towards the base of Arrowhead Mountain, and you walk across a bridge down a short path and you can visit Kirkkelfell waterfall. There's 2 tiers to it that you can walk down, and it is just absolutely beautiful. It is fed by the glacier, and it just has all these separate streams pouring into this pool, cascading down, and then it does it again to a secondary pool. It is just absolutely gorgeous. And then, of course, just having this epic mountain just right there. And Kirkkelfell is even more iconic because it just sticks out into the ocean, and it rises about 1,500 feet above sea level. So it's just ocean and then this super tall, beautiful mountain. So the whole scene is just kind of surreal. It is so fun to explore. So definitely carve out plenty of time to enjoy the waterfall. Make sure you go all the way down to the bottom to see it. And then if you do have more time, there is also a path around Kirkkelfell. It takes you by the beach and you can look up and see the mountain from a few different angles, and it's just such a beautiful mountain. But also, since it's right on the beach, you never know what kind of marine life you're going to see there. This area is very common for seals, harbor seals and gray seals, different whales, and of course all those seabirds. Like, it's just absolutely beautiful. And of course, for all you Game of Thrones fans out there, this was actually one of the filming locations, which is another reason this particular mountain is so popular. There's a good chance you recognize it if you're a fan of the show. And that is how I would recommend you spend a day exploring the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. On this route, you will have seen a little bit of everything: a super cool glacier, a waterfall, black pebble beaches, dramatic cliffs, maybe some snow. Like, there's just so much along this route to discover, and it's just a great sneak peek at what the rest of the country has to offer. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for bearing with me through those pronunciations. It was tough, but we did it. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to drop those in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer those for you. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know that as well. I always love to hear that. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you do want more information about the Snaefellsnes Peninsula and any of these stops, I also have a written blog at www.cochranewriting.com. You can check that out and read a little bit more. I also have a number of YouTube videos and blog guides for exploring more of Iceland. If you are planning a trip, I encourage you to check those out. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I wish you many happy travels.